Jay St. Clair, I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
How you doing?
You know, if I were any better, Matt, I would be Chris Webber.
Oh, really? Ooh, Chris
I
Webber.
would be Chris Webber.
Uh-huh. Why is that? Why is that?
Life would be good then, wouldn't it?
That's true.
He's doing pretty good.
He is doing pretty good in life.
Yeah.
I'll admit that.
Yeah.
Jay, have you ever had, I have another question for you.
Okay.
Have you ever had a buzz cut?
When I was very young, you know, my dad was in the Air Force and was in charge of our haircuts until probably the 8th grade. So, yes, I think I have pictures from kindergarten. Well, I think he had a flat top.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And technically that may be just slightly different from a buzz cut. But I had, I'm sure, an Air Force regulation haircut until I was probably 10 or 11 years old.
Well, the reason I ask you, because as I introduced you, I introduced you as a lot of things, but Jay is each of those things in my life. And Jay acts as my legal counsel. And Jay, I fear that I have talked myself in a corner, and I want to talk to you about it. Because you
mean, wait a minute, you telling me that your mouth got you in trouble?
I mean, I know it's hard to believe.
I just want to know this. At any point during the conversation, did you say, well, call it up?
Well, I might have to say that eventually. I haven't said it yet, but I might have to say it eventually. So we have an event. Here's the backstory. I've been letting my hair grow out. My locks for Trump, right?
Right.
And I am free of all obligations to continue to grow it. And so we're talking about when we're going to get it cut. And we have an event coming up at the Nashville Palace. You would love this place, Jay. Love this place. It's right up your alley. I mean, there's a retro 1980s feel to it. The Nashville Palace is across the street from the Gaylord Opryland Hotel, and it's right beside Willie Nelson and Friends Bar and Cooters. Cooters from the Dukes of Hazzard. I mean, this is our kind of place, Jay. Our kind of place.
Right.
Well, it's a pretty big joint. Now, according to Chris Webber, it holds about 700. I didn't know this when I made this declaration. It holds about 725 people. Okay?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And I've already said that I'm getting my hair cut that night. I'm going to have...
There?
There.
You're going to do it there?
I'm going to have a barber come with me, and a licensed barber is going to cut my hair on the night in question, March 4th, in just a couple of weeks.
Nice.
But I said today during the first hour of the show that if we fill the Nashville Palace, I'll get a buzz cut.
Matt, if Tennessee goes 5-0, if Tennessee goes 5-0 this year, knowing the fifth game was the Florida game, I will jump out of an airplane.
Oh, gosh. Oh, no. Oh, this doesn't...
Don't make my mistakes, Matt. You sat there and watched it happen.
I did. I didn't even
And now you're doing it again?
I didn't even think about it. So let me give the backstory. So Jay and I were doing our Fri-Jay segments. We used to be able to do these in the same studio, and now Jay's in Beham and I'm in Nash. But we were in the studio, and I had the year before... I jumped out of an airplane. I did a skydive for charity, for one of our mutual good friends. And I knew how averse to heights Jay was. Jay is, one of the more height averse people that I've ever met. He does not care for heights.
Absolutely. I freely admit it.
And so we had Dustin, I think he was in the studio with us this day, and we were talking about it. And I said, Jay, and I was just messing with Jay, boy. I was just messing with him. And I said, Jay, you ought to jump out of an airplane with us. You ought to jump out of that airplane with us. And Jay got this look on his face. And he said, well, tell him what you said. What you just said, right?
Yeah. I said, well, I really want to do it, man. I really do, because it's for a great cause. Dustin's got a disabled child, and he's raising money for this real rare disease. And I wanted to do it, but I just knew I couldn't. And so I had to publicly commit to it. And so I said, you know what? I'll make a bet on something, on a bet I can never lose.
Right.
I mean, there's no way I can lose this bet. Because I've forgotten who was in charge. Maybe Derek Dooley or somebody awful. And so I said,
I think it was Butch Jones, maybe, or something.
Maybe Butch,
like that.
yeah. Well, that sounds right. So I said, Matt, I'll make a deal with you. If Tennessee goes 5-0, if they win their first 5 football games, I will skydive with you. Knowing that the 5th game was Florida on the road.
And there's no way.
No way I can lose that bet.
No way you lose that bet.
Yep. And so I jumped out of the airplane at 12,500 feet, I think at about 4:08 p.m. I can tell you everything about it.
Oh, it was one of the greatest days of my life. It really was.
Funny.
It was a lot of fun. It was funny. So I have done this, Jay. I've made the skydiving bet.
Well, good. Well, listen, it's time. I think you ought to cut it all off. And you know what may happen, man?
Mm-hmm.
This is really good. If you're blessed, if you're lucky, it may grow back the color of my hair. Think about that. Think about that.
Or the color of my scraggly beard. Yeah, that little.
Well,
gray.
you have I tell people all the time, you have no idea how much I have to pay to keep my hair this color. I mean, it's a fortune.
I mean, it's a beautiful head of hair, Jay. It's a beautiful head of hair. I like to say that God, my ability to continue to grow my hair is proof that there is a God and He's fair.
Yeah.
Because God gave me a very lumpy head. Very lumpy.
Oh, so it's covering up the bad parts.
Right. So, but God said, well, you know what? We gave him a lumpy head. Let him keep his hair. Let him. Yeah. You know, that's a good Lord, that would do.
Well, I like that. Well, the good book also says that gray hair is a crown of glory. So I wear mine proudly.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's good looking. If y'all aren't watching on Super Talk TV, you're not seeing it, but it's up there. And Jay, your hair looks great. Maybe you can get a buzz cut with me. I don't know. I'm not asking you to join me on this adventure, but 725 people. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of people. And
that's good.
Well, trust me. Before I get a buzz cut, I'm counting every single one of them. We're getting to fire code before I get that buzz cut. All right, we've got lots of questions coming in already, but I have a quick question for you, Jay, and it kind of is a reflection of something that we talked about earlier in the week. And I a couple of listeners wagged their fingers at me to a certain degree, and I probably deserved it because I said that I felt like, from an attitude standpoint, that government employees were entitled, that they came off as entitled. And I stood by that. And obviously, I'm speaking in generalities. I'm not talking about every single government employee, state or federal, obviously. However, we had a good conversation about that. And it occurred to me as we were preparing that you're a great person to ask this question, being that it is your area of expertise. What are the differences between public employment or government employment and employment in the private sector? What would you identify as the big differences?
Yeah, and before I do, let me just say this. I think my connection is a little bit unstable, Matt, and so if it gets too bad, just let me know. We'll jump over to a telephone.
Okay, very good, very good. You sound fine on our end.
Okay, good. I would say this: if they're in the civil service, and not all federal employees are, but most of them are, 80% or so, I would say the biggest differences, man, is number one, job security. They are not employees at will, like most private sector employees are, meaning that the government has to have just cause, basically, to terminate them. So that's a big difference. Number two, and this is a really big difference, is benefits. I mean, the benefits that public employees have are remarkable. Most of them, Matt, are still, in addition to 401k, right? Everybody now has a 401k. They still get a pension in addition to the 401k, and pensions in the private sector are all but gone. And then the third thing I would say, the big difference, is the pay level is
It was almost forecast by our man. Super Talk TV, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. We were serving that master until she bucked us, and so now we have to revert to the telephone. But luckily, we've got the telephone line available for Jay St. Clair and for you if you have any questions for Jay. Jay, it was just noted by a loyal listener to this program that if Jay St. Clair signed up for an Ask a Jay segment at Nashville Palace on the night of March 4th, we would certainly see Matt Murphy getting a buzz cut that evening because we would be full. I'm just throwing it out there.
What? Tell me the day again.
March 4th.
What day of the week?
That's I want to say that's a Tuesday. That is it's during the week.
Yeah, it's Tuesday.
It's Tuesday. Yeah, it's a Tuesday. The president's giving an address that night, kind of a pseudo State of the Union. It's not technically a State of the Union, but Jay, you know you're always invited. There's a Gaylord Opryland Hotel right next door.
Would I get paid overtime rates?
Absolutely, of course. I can make that commitment. I'll go ahead.
Half my regular rate.
A time and a half, the regular amount of payment that we. Jay.
Yeah.
Double time. Double.
No.
Oh, boy, oh, boy. All right, Donald's got a question for Jay. And, Donald, you are first up on our Fri-Jay segment. What's up, Donald?
I would just like to ask, when does child support end in Tennessee?
That's entirely a function of your divorce agreement or your child support agreement, Donald. So that's the first place to look is your agreement. Almost always it runs through the age of majority, which I think it's 18. 18 in Tennessee.
That sounds right.
But there are occasions, for example, in the order, it may obligate you to pay some college expenses. So it's not a one-size-fits-all, Donald. What you need to do is look at your divorce decree or any other orders that deal with child support.
All right, thank you so much. Yeah, have a good day.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, Donald. Appreciate the telephone call. As other telephone calls come in, I will begin going down the list of questions on the super text line. Ask Jay. See, this is why I love our audience, because I've got serious, I've got a little bit non-serious. Now, this is one of the serious questions, Jay. This is one of the serious.
It's kind of like my practice in real life, man.
I guess that's true. Ask Jay what he thinks about NASCAR not throwing the caution and let that Byron boy win and screwing that Jones kid out of the victory. I don't know about that. I don't know.
Oh, I love it. It was the last lap.
It was the last lap.
And it's so funny. There's conspiracy theories everywhere. And I'll say this about it. Here's what I will say, though, in all honesty. These are split-second decisions. I've heard the guys talk about it, the competition. I mean, split seconds, man. They have to make that decision within 1 second. Mm-hmm. And it's like fighter pilots. And they want, I guarantee you this, NASCAR wants every race to finish under green. That's their bias. They want every race to finish under green.
Yes.
And in that split second, if they think it's going to be safe, then they'll let the race finish under green. The wreck was on the back stretch. They'd already gotten the ambulance over there. They were confident they could slow the cars down before they got to the accident. But no.
Well, and yeah, I mean, I agree with you on everything you just said. I think if it's on a shorter track, regardless of the lower speeds, they probably throw the caution.
You got to drop the flag, right? Because the wreck was a mile away from them,
right?
Even though it went 190 miles an hour. But I get it. Everybody. It's we all see things. It's like replacing football. Right, and well, he clearly was out. Oh, he wasn't out of bounds. It all depends on what team you're rooting for.
And I've long said this, and about when you apply it to football, it's more clear that
two people can sit there and watch the exact same play and never agree on what the call should be.
Right. And and same deal. I'm just glad Joey Logano didn't win. That's all I'm saying. Or Denny Hamlin. So let's see. Matt and Jay, how can a state infringe on the Second Amendment? In other words, requiring a carry permit and that sort of thing. That comes from Mario, who writes in from Tennessee.
It's a great question, Mario. The answer to that is a state cannot infringe on the Second Amendment. They can't. So what you're really asking is, does the Second Amendment allow states, or the federal government for that matter, to require people to have a permit to carry weapons under certain circumstances? Most time it's concealed carry. Mm-hmm. And the courts have ruled that it is legal to require people to have a permit to conceal carry, that's permitted under the Second Amendment. Now, it can be such a difficult process that hardly no one can get that permit. Some state up northeast was like that. I mean, it may have been New York, actually, where it was just these incredibly onerous rules, man, to get that private carry permit. And the court said that's illegal. Mm-hmm. But if all you have to do is pay a fee and then maybe get a background check, then that is not violating the Second Amendment.
Jay is with us. Fri-Jay continues on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Many of your questions coming in on the Super Text line, and I'm flipping over to said same right now, Jay. And as I wait for that to here we go. Matt, regarding federal court rulings against Donald Trump as the president of the United States, ask Jay if they are not clearly overstepping their bounds by the Constitution, and does Donald Trump have to get to the Supreme Court to get these overturned, or is there another step in the process?
You know, when he says clearly overstepping the Constitution, I would say this. I disagree with some of these decisions just from a legal standpoint. I don't think they are correctly applying the Constitution. You know, but on some things, reasonable minds can disagree. So I don't think that I would say clearly overstepping their bounds. But I do believe some of these decisions will be reversed. They cannot go directly to the Supreme Court. They would first have to go to the courts of appeal. In the federal system, there's 3 levels: district court, circuit court, Supreme Court. These are all happening at the district court, the first level. They have to go to the circuit court and then the Supreme Court. I hope I answered all your questions.
No, I think so. I think you did. Absolutely. And I agree. I agree that obviously there are some that are easier calls than others, in my opinion.
That's right.
And Archie writes in and wants to know from Jay, aside from birthright citizenship, what is Jay's biggest legal concern that he has noticed for the Trump team, if he has any?
That's a really good question, Archie. I'd have to think about that because I don't have all. Oh, I'll tell you what it may be. I'll tell you what it may be. There are some statutes, the removal of the inspector generals. There's a statute that says that the president has the right to remove them, but he has to give Congress some lead notice on it. I've forgotten what it is, 21 days, 30 days, whatever. And he did not follow that. Well, no, Olivia, I've got this one right. You don't have to argue with me about that one. My dog's barking. And so that one he might have a little bit of a problem with. But it's all this stuff, man, is very technical. The arguments they're making are very technical. It's even down to the point about, well, how do these various entities report up to the president? So to give a really informed opinion about each of them, I'd have to study each of them in depth, and I have not done that.
Hey, Matt, would you ask Jay St. Clair about a Doge website for the state of Tennessee? I think we run a tight ship, but transparency breeds accountability. Well, I guess that's just a general question, Bruce, but I think it's an interesting food for thought. I'll just ask you more broadly, Jay, your thoughts about this. I understand it's not necessarily, well, it might be a legal question in the sense that you brought up several weeks ago how inventive the Trump team was in creating this Department of Government and kind of utilizing an older department that not a lot of people knew about, the U.S. Digital Service, I think it's called.
No, absolutely. No, they spend a lot of time on this, man. And a lot of smart people thought about this for a long time. The way they structured it is brilliant.
Mickey wants to say hi to Olivia.
Tell your dog I said hi. I'm going to get you one of those stickers. You remember that sticker I had? Tell your dog I said hi.
Tell your dog I said hi. And Mickey also says that Olivia is a gorgeous poochie.
Yeah, we posted her. Yeah,
that's right.
Oh, she's a sweetheart.
Hey, Matt, love your show. Question for Jay. My father got a felony involving domestic violence against my mother when I was 10. That's too bad. I lost him for years. I am grown now, and my voice matters more than when I was a 10-year-old, and I can confirm my father was not the wrongdoer.
Wow.
He would like to own a gun now, and I would love to get him one legally. What are our steps in order to do this? Thank you,
he's
sir.
going to have to, we get this line. He's going to have to get that record expunged, and I'm sorry to tell you that is not an easy process. You can try to do it yourself, but it's tough. You really just got to get a lawyer. And you got to go through a long, complicated process to get that record expunged. By law, convicted felons can't own handguns. And so the only way to get out from underneath that, or possess them, they can't possess them. The only way to get out from underneath that is to get the conviction expunged. And it's just not an easy process. You can try it on your own, but you're almost sure to fail. You just got to get a lawyer who specializes in that.
We have another question, Jay, asking if your hair was that color. Who is this? It's 2542. Yeah, 2542 wants to know, was Jay's hair that color before he jumped out of the airplane? That's a good question.
Okay, that's funny.
That's funny.
That is funny.
I can confirm that it was, by the way. I've seen it post jump and pre-jump, and it was the same color in both cases. Jay, can Joe sue Matt for putting him on the radio and immediately slamming the door in his face and taking him right back off the radio, even though he apologized? Jay, can I be sued for what I did against Joe earlier today?
Who's asking this question?
This is Tim asking that question.
Hey, Tim, I sure wish you were on the line right now, because I would ask you, Tim, what does it take to file a lawsuit? And I can't ask you that, so I'm going to ask Chris Weber. Chris, tell Tim what 2 things it takes to file a lawsuit.
Here he comes.
Chris isn't listening.
No, he's listening.
That would be, let's see, $400 on a crayon or something like that? Right?
I like to say, yeah, that's it. Exactly right. Yes, Tim, he can sue. All it takes is $400 in a crayon.
Matt, ask Jay if reckless endangerment. Now, I love these specific questions about Tennessee law, Jay, so I'll give you a second to. Is reckless endangerment a felony in Tennessee? Now, that's a specific one.
I'm going to just guess that yes. It is in almost every other state. I can look it up real quick, maybe during a break. But yes, reckless endangerment, I'm just almost certain under Tennessee law would be a felony.
Let's talk to Jerry next up on the line, who wants to ask a question of Jay St. Clair. It's Fri-Jay in session on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hello, Jerry.
Yeah, my question is I understand the executive orders. He's reversing a lot of them, but what scares me, I don't like them. Regardless of who's doing it, because I feel like it's circumventing the Constitution, and we're getting into a point of the Republic where we choose our own dictator every 4 years.
Right.
Is there any way we can stop this, or
yes.
get it to the
yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. There's a very simple way to do it, Jerry, and that is for Congress to do its job. Because what has been happening for decades, Jerry, is that Congress writes these very short laws, and then they give the real lawmaking authority to these agencies. And the agencies all report to the president. So they're really giving up their jurisdiction, so to speak, to the president. And so the way to change that is for Congress to go into all these laws where they have ceded their legislative power to the executive and take it back. You're exactly right that really since the New Deal, there's been a tremendous shift of power from Congress to the president. But it's been on purpose by both parties, Jerry, both parties. And so Congress only has itself to blame. They don't want to do the hard work of actually getting dirt under the fingernails and writing laws. So I agree with you 100%.
Jerry,
way too much of the Congress has ceded way too much of its legislative authority. And so when they cede it, they don't cede it to the president. They cede it to these departments and agencies. And here lately, they say, well, that's good because our people are in there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what's changed? Here's what's changed is the Trump people, they've figured out how to turn that on its head. And they said, oh, you know what? They're really not ceding it to these agencies. They're ceding it to the president.
Right.
And the president can tell every agency out there what to do. And so that's really kind of exposed the mistake Congress made in ceding so much of its authority to the executive branch. Yeah,
Jerry, and thank you for the call, Jerry. I mean, no, you're exactly right. I mean, you taught me years ago, and I love to use the example about OSHA.
Yep. No, it's just, and it's in so many different places. But OSHA says, oh, we need to have safe workplaces. Well, let's pass a law. Okay. Well, they pass a law, Matt, and here's what it says. Every employer in the United States should have a safe workplace. Mm-hmm. And we hereby give the Department of Labor full authority to write all the regulations they want on what that means. End of law. That's what the law says. And then the Department of Labor regulations are 4,673 pages long.
I mean, right. And so the executive who is in charge of the Department of Labor can interpret those.
Tell them how to change the regulations.
Right. Can change the regulations at their whim, and so it cedes power from the Congress to the executive branch, and it's up to the Congress to get it back. And I suppose that the courts will have certain things to say about it, but if the Congress wants it back, they just have to do the hard work.
That's it. You said it exactly right.
Two final questions before we have to say goodbye. Matt, question for Jay. Do I need a specialized lawyer for wills and estate planning? And if not, how can I be sure to get a good one for those topics?
Those are great questions. It is so, hiring a lawyer, man, is kind of like hiring a doctor. You don't really know if it's a good doctor or not. And the only way really to find out is kind of word of mouth advertising. Here's what I would say. Tell me, is this Jerry? Or?
It was Rod. Rod. No, it's Rod.
Rod. Yeah. Okay, Rod. Rod, here's what I would say about that. There are many lawyers who do specialize in trust and estates, and I would go to one of those people. I just think your chances are better off to get a good result. There are general practitioners. It's what we used to call medical doctors that would do a little bit of everything. Well, there's still some of those lawyers around, and they'll do trust and estate. They might write a will today. They may handle a car wreck tomorrow. They may handle a criminal case on Friday. They do a little bit of everything, and you might get a good result there. But I would rather have somebody that all they do is write wills or handle trust and estates. I just think that's the thing. It won't cost you any more. And you're likely to get a better result.
And the final question of the day, ask Jay how well he knew my cousin, Junior Johnson, and does he have any good stories?
Wow. Well, if he's talking about the real Junior Johnson, I didn't know him at all, but I certainly knew of him. And a remarkable guy, just an absolutely remarkable guy. Incredible race car driver in his own right, incredible owner, crew chief.
Didn't Junior Johnson back in the day, I mean, he was one of the few NASCAR boys that actually served a little jail time for running for
I think that's right.
Yeah.
I think he admits that he ran moonshine, and I think they put him in the pokey.
Well, stay out of the pokey this weekend, Jay. I hope you have a wonderful one, and as always, we enjoyed it. We'll talk to you soon, my friend.
Thank you, brother.